Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Max Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Max Roberts. This is episode 12. And coming back to the show, first episode, now 12th episode, Peter Spezia. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, Max. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for joining me relatively last minute. I mean, day before notice, because of Nintendo. Nintendo does what Nintendo does. And they announced a direct yesterday, which was September 22nd, and then they aired it today, all because of a patent for a controller that was going to come out tomorrow?
You know, when you start to kind of read Nintendo internet, so to speak, and you kind of get to see some of the pieces fall in place, and you kind of read on rumors, you had the feeling Nintendo generally seems to like to have a direct in September. It was due, right? Mm-hmm. And so you start to see talk of this other controller, and the number sequencing before it kind of lined up with the Super Nintendo controller and the NES controller, and maybe it might be the next thing. And so I guess they moved a deadline for it from like March 2022 up to September 24th. And it's like, well, I guess we're probably having this happen soon if they air their directs on Thursday like they tend to do. Usually, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time is about a time that they would announce it. And sure enough, got lucky on guessing that one.
Yeah, it is. It's always, I mean, really any now showcase from a game company is just like, oh yeah, and in a couple of days we'll be streaming this event. You know, Sony's really been leaning into that a lot lately, and Xbox has done that a time or two as well. It's always just a fun way to drum up some hype and see what they've got cooking.
And it's all about finding that sweet spot too. Like, right, if it's 1 to 2 days, I think you're kind of capturing that zeitgeist. I mean, Nintendo's got it down where it's like the next day, or sometimes they'll drop a mini, like here it is, shadow dropped. But yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot. I think if you go anything beyond that, you're kind of just losing the sizzle.
Yeah, it's all about immediacy and getting people very excited in a short period of time and just talking about it. Although I think some of the announcements people will be talking about for at least the next year to come. Some of the stuff that we're going to get to today. So I thought we could kind of go through the direct bit by bit and talk about the things that caught our eye that really we cared about. A lot of things you and I have, we overlap here, and I'm sure same thing with some of the stuff we may or may not want to talk about. But they, you know, I think going into the direct today, at least some of my friends, there was a lot of talk on Twitter and in my circles about, is the Smash character coming today? And we'll get to that, but people were like Sora, Master Chief, Doomslayer, all the stuff was flying around today.
And I feel like that's another point where I think you kind of have to read the Twitter tea leaves. Masahiro Sakurai is very good about saying you should pay attention to this Nintendo Direct. Well, he didn't do that.
Yeah, and so I went in thinking no Smash reveal today, and we technically didn't get it. But it was just, when they opened the show, I got a little nervous.
Right. You were really looking for that not gameplay. Yes.
So they open up with this CG trailer that at first was like, oh my gosh, is this Smash? And then my next reaction was, is this Bayonetta? Because it was purple and it had some buildings and stuff. But no, alas, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak DLC, Summer 22. And really quick, I want to say for the listener, going into the Direct, Nintendo specifically said this was focusing on mostly games releasing this holiday. I think over half of the games here are 22. So
yeah, they say that, and then like you do have quite a few titles that kind of stretch beyond that. That's generally what they tend to do. Yeah, for me it was spotting Rathalos. I'm like, oh, okay, it's Monster Hunter, and I had seen some kind of scuttlebutt online of people being like, oh, it would make sense if they did an expansion to Rise, kind of like what they did with Iceborne for World. So I think this made perfect sense and an interesting way to start the show.
It feels like there's a Monster Hunter game every Direct. Whether it's is it Stories is the more
Stories
cartoony
2
one?
was the recent,
Capcom has clearly hit a stride with Monster Hunter, both in, I think, the consumer market and just cranking them out. I mean, I feel like Monster Hunter's everywhere.
Yeah, there's an appeal there. There's an audience there, so you keep milking it.
Yeah, they're milking it. But I personally have never played Monster Hunter, so I was like, good for them. Yay. Next summer. Then they jumped to what I definitely considered was one of the, like, quote unquote locks for the Direct today. Some more Mario Party Superstars, not Super Mario Party. Mario Party Superstars, reminding people that it is out in a month, basically a month and some change, and revealed, what was it, the final maps, courses, right?
Yeah.
Stages from this classic stage. So it's Mario Party. I was trying to tell my friends that we have to do a 50-turn round when we're together for the Game Awards. I don't know. Are you into this, into Superstars here?
You know, actually, my fiance and I have gotten into Super Mario Party, so I think if it were just myself playing, I would look at this and say, oh, that's nice. But to have someone to play with, especially looking at the tag team mode that they talked about online, I think that definitely appeals, and that's probably something I'll be playing this fall.
Bringing online to Mario Party feels like one of the most obvious moments, and it was crazy it took so long for them to add it to Super Mario Party, which I guess should have been a sign that they were going to have another Mario Party game soon. But I'm really happy to see them bring it, to the franchise finally in a meaningful way.
For sure. And then when you don't see it in the recent WarioWare game, like, it feels hit or miss. It's those Nintendo decisions that they make. But I think having it in Mario Party is the right call.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make more people, I think, play together and buy it and be, especially, not that we'll be in quarantine for years to come, but I think that mentality of connecting and playing, like, people have set up routines and rituals, maybe rituals too strong, but routines and scheduled, like, calls to play games together or do a Zoom call or something. And I definitely could see Mario Party this way working out quite regularly for people, which could mean more sales and then maybe another Mario Party game. So it'll never ever ever stop, which is kind of the point of Mario Party. Then they showed off this game called Voice of Cards, and then there was a subtitle that I didn't write down. It's a card RPG. It looked like a dungeon crawler where you go over, like, the backs of cards, but then they may have a random, like, encounter on the top. It was interesting, but that also is coming out this October, actually a day before Mario Party on October 28th.
Yeah, it's tapping into that tabletop RPG, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, with your dice rolls and things like that. Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars, which was a game that, it's like, I feel like I'd heard about it. Where did I hear about it? I feel like I talked about it on my podcast. Like, why is it ringing a bell? And then they start to show the cast list. And I'm also thinking, gosh, this music sounds a lot like it's near Automata inspired. And sure enough, it's Yoko Taro, and Keiichi Okabe is the composer. So it's like, it's a Square Enix game by the Nier people. So
yeah, and there's a demo out today, which I really love. At least Square, I think, has really been leaning into demos a lot more lately, at least on Switch. One, they did it with Project Octopath Traveler, then Octopath Traveler. They do it with Bravely Default. They did it with Project Triangle Strategy, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And more demos, please. Fewer betas, more demos. I really like that offering. It gives people a chance to try it out, and then, of course, they can pre-order it right away as well, which probably helps sales in some capacity if folks like the demo. So
I think I agree. I mean, more demos for sure. But at the same time, if you're like Square Enix and you actually use the demo to gather feedback and how to improve the game, I think that's also a very beneficial way of using that as a tool for your development team.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when they do them so far out, like triangle strategy and stuff, which is still sitting on my Switch and I want to play it. But I remember when it came out and people were saying it was a 5-hour demo, and it's like, ooh, I want to play you, but not right now. And I've never found like the time to just dive into the demo. Maybe soon. Who knows? The next game was the Disco Elysium Final Cut, which had previously been announced, but now has a date of October 12th, digitally on Switch, and then the physical edition is coming later, I want to say in 22, through IM 8-bit, and actually you can go ahead and pre-order that now, I believe, if you would like the game physically. But, I mean, Disco Elysium, I have not played yet, heard wonderful things about, but I feel like it would... I mean, maybe the portability of the Switch. I don't know. I'd rather play this on my PlayStation, I think. It's cool to see it on Switch, though.
Yeah, I think it's great to have it on Switch. I do have it on my PS5. I probably got 45 minutes into it, and it's a lot of reading. I don't think it's necessarily a game that needs the graphics-intensive presentation, because it is a lot of menuing and reading. So yeah. I think the portability and having it in small chunks is going to be great for it.
Yeah, that... and be able to throw it in like sleep mode if you're, So yeah, actually, I could see that working out. It's cool to see it coming to Switch. Obviously, people always want their games to come to Switch, like port bagging and stuff. It's great. Hyrule Warriors DLC number 2. I'm laughing because this call I was in during the stream and stuff, it's just, we were just laughing that this game is still getting DLC. I mean, they've announced this previously, but it's just this game keeps on coming. And October 29th is the date for the second story DLC chunk and stuff. Did you play Hyrule Warriors?
I played the base game. Yeah, I liked it. It was fun, but it was a rental. I didn't see the need to keep it around for this DLC. Yeah. Although that shot of Zelda on the motorbike, that got a good chuckle out of me.
I keep wanting to play it simply because it is a prequel to Breath of the Wild, but I've never played one of those Musou-style, Warriors games where you just hack and slash and kill hundreds of enemies at once. So I'm not sure if maybe I'd like it. I don't know. Who knows?
It is definitely fun. I'll give you the warning that it's not really canon, though. So I don't know if you're necessarily missing too much.
Sweet. That actually makes me feel a little bit better about not having it.
I'm sure there are people out there that are like, well, did this happen? And so therefore, my take on it was the things that happened in that story did not necessarily make it all that canon.
Okay. I can live with that. I know we said it at the top because they opened with the Sunbreak DLC for Summer 22, but then these 4 games were all October. October is packed for Switch, with these 4 plus the Metroid Dread coming out on the 8th with Switch OLED. October is a packed month for Nintendo, and not just in game releases and stuff, as we'll get to after Chocobo GP, which is another Square Enix title. A lot of Square stuff in this Direct as well today. A kart racer with Final Fantasy characters. Kind of filling somewhat of a void with no new Mario Kart game, maybe? I don't know. It is a party kart racer.
It is interesting to think of how, they said, it's exclusive for Switch. It's it's because that's the place for kart racers. Is that it? I feel like there was a Chocobo racing game in the past, so it's almost like making a follow-up to that in a way. It's an odd pick, but I think one that can have an audience.
Yeah, I was cracking up. There was a Chocobo racing game. It's called Chocobo Racing. It was on the PlayStation.
Well, there you go.
Look at that. And the Chocobo also is wearing rollerblades with rockets on them. That's what was cracking me up, was just the idea of this character basically skating its way. It's actually would be what I would think a Sonic racing game would be was be Sonic running, but Sonic's actually the one in the car and the Chocobo's the one running with rocket-powered roller skates.
Right. Go figure.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it? But, cool for Square Enix fans and Final Fantasy folks, but I'm good with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, personally. I feel content there. I think now we get into kind of a little bit of a stretch here, where this is where it started picking up for me. Like, the Direct started piquing my interest personally with the Smash Brothers announcement. A Directception, like an announcement of a Direct within a Direct. October 5th, a Tuesday, basically a week and a half out, Sakurai is revealing the final Smash character. And I believe they even said that this is the final Smash Brothers Ultimate like presentation. Like, after this, we're done. Which is weird to think about. How do you feel about it being announced in a week and a half? I personally thought we were going to get another Game Awards reveal, that kind of like really big hype moment. It's the final fighter, but Nintendo seems to be taking this one in their own hands. What did you think about this announcement of an announcement?
I thought that, as I mentioned earlier, with Sakurai not plugging this Direct, that's kind of, leaves in the tea to kind of read that, something like this was probably going to happen. They are aiming to deliver the final character by the end of the year. So I think your thought of saying, well, what about the Game Awards? There's something to that. They had the first DLC character reveal there with Joker, and that was a great moment. But here's the thing. Having the DLC character anywhere in this Direct, especially it being the last one, overshadows everything else. Yeah. Nothing else is talked about. This is the news. Now, making it its own Direct, its own presentation, Nintendo owns the day, and arguably the days leading up to it in speculation. So I think this was a very smart move to do, especially with it being the last one. If it was like, if we were still had a couple characters left to go, you could have easily snuck an announcement in there that here's the next character. But for it to be the final one, to give it a sense of finality, I think this was the right move to do. Now we have a couple weeks to hypothesize on who that character might be. And honestly, for Sakurai's sake, I hope it really is his last. Like, give the man some rest.
Yes, please, Sakurai, rest. It's interesting because, as we talked at the top about announcing the Direct, and typically it's the next day or two. But this Smash Direct, simply because it is the reveal and then the deep dive into the character and its mechanics and whatnot, this can kind of marinate for a bit. And people are going to be talking about this, hyping it up. I'm sure the leakers will come out of the whatever corners of the internet they're in and be like, oh, this character's getting into Smash. It's, who knows what kind of crazy hypothesis or leaks we're going to see here in the next week and a half, but Smash really is going to rule the day on October 5th.
Yeah, it's wild. What character do you think it might be, or do you have a few in mind?
So the pipe dream, to take something from you, my Kiefer style prediction or dream or hope, would be Goku. And I know Goku's not a video game character, but I think Goku would be nuts. More realistically, I think almost the perfect balance would be Waluigi. Just do it. Just give us, it's a Nintendo character, you own him. I think it'd be pretty great and funny, and everyone, I think, would get a chuckle out of it. I could also see it being a Fire Emblem character, just like really one more twist of the knife, or sword, as it were. But beyond that, I just don't know who they could put, I see people saying Master Chief or Doomslayer. I think Chief would be more likely than Doomslayer, just simply because of Halo's T and a bit more cartoony. I don't know. I mean, Doomslayer would be cool, but he's a bit intense, I know Bayonetta has like guns in her boots, but Doomslayer has a chainsaw with a giant gun. It just seems a bit much. What about what do you think? What are you hoping for? You think could be the final Smash Ultimate character?
I think when people say that the internet will be disappointed no matter what, I think there's some merit to that, right? Because
absolutely,
everyone's building it up. And if we look at how Bayonetta was the last DLC character in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, there was some setup to that with the ballot, right? She won the ballot vote that everyone got to fill in.
Allegedly, she won the vote.
Supposedly, right. So it was going to be a popular character if they were going to make all the fans happy. Here, all bets are off. And I think even if it's a first-party character, which it very likely could be, I would not be surprised to see a first-party character in some capacity. I think that in itself will disappoint people, because then you're picking from likely a Pokemon, or another Fire Emblem character, sure. Even if you went something like in the direction of Akira Howard from Astral Chain, like, okay, it'd be an interesting pick, and it probably would be cool, but is that really a character that everyone would be excited about? So
No.
if you went third party, I think then you get more potential to make that big splash, that big final announcement. And then, you start weighing it out of, was this character worth the pomp and circumstance of, it makes all the marketing sense in the world to set aside your day, your Smash day, for the final reveal. But then people are going to say, well, was this character worth it? Could you have shuffled another character around? Would Steve maybe have been like the big internet breaking moment to end it all, right? Like,
Yeah.
depending on what you thought of Steve being revealed at the time.
I mean, Steve's big.
Exactly. I mean, Steve broke the internet at that time. Like, Twitter went down when Steve was revealed. It was a massive announcement, but like, was that then the right timing for it? Do you save, or do you have to shuffle around? So, characters I would like to see, I think I would, flip in excitement for Sora, despite the Disney difficulties there. A Capcom character like Phoenix Wright would be amazing. Would really enjoy that. But I think, for a while I've been saying like Crash Bandicoot could be very likely, but with the Activision Blizzard stuff, again, I don't know if now's the right time to make that announcement.
You would have to think, though, I mean, these deals, wasn't this entire roster like chosen up front? Like, there was So I mean, if it is Crash, I mean, that was locked before all of this came out publicly. It's just really unfortunate timing. Absolutely,
of course. But then again,
could you have maybe
you're setting up the marketing for yourself with all the eyes on you, and then you do that. Like, it's just, coming from a PR perspective, like, that's just running into a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
But then you see things like, Ryo Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden gets thrown around every now and then in a lot of leaks. And it's like, is there any weight to that? So I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, whatever it is. I'm going to be happy, even if it's a character I don't care about. I think that's just the, over 30-year-old in me talking of gone through enough Super Smash Brothers drama for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's the near 30-year-old in me also. Just like, I'm good. Whatever they announce. I still don't even own the fighter passes, either one of them, because I haven't even unlocked all the characters in Smash, because every time I play, it's at someone else's house, and they already have everything, or they bought the DLC. So I never have people over at my house to play Smash, and even if I did, we would just put their Switch in. So
Right.
Someone else will buy it, and I can play it.
Or there'll be a Game of the Year,
eventually,
ultimate version. Yeah.
An ultimate. They probably will do something like that, because they've done that for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I saw that, at least in the Japanese Direct, they announced today, like, Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2 are going to get re-released physically with their expansion passes is included on the cartridge. So I definitely could see Smash maybe next year, even, for holiday time, just like, here's Smash Ultimate Plus. What, I don't even know.
Yeah, Ultimate Plus. Hey, they do like the Plus expansion pass. They're big on the Plus.
They love their pluses. So that definitely could be down the line. And what would that would be $60 for Smash, and Each fire pass is 20. I don't know. They would probably do $90 or something. But there is like a strange feeling that this is the end for now. I mean, Smash will continue eventually. Someday there will be a new Smash Brothers game. Will Sakurai be behind it? Who knows? You know, they clearly have built up a really great team between Sora and Bandai Namco to, you know, create the current identity of Smash Brothers, from Smash for Wii U to Ultimate here. But for now, this is, you know, the end of Smash. And so it's a little bittersweet, but also like, finally.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on almost 3 years of this game, and that's a remarkable amount of time to continue to support not only character updates, but patches and other fixes. So, I mean, it's a good run. You feel a little wistful to see it end.
Yeah. Well, we shall find out in a week and a half. It's going to be exciting either way. So, moving on. The next announcement was accidentally not leaked, but like Nintendo themselves accidentally published it a little too soon on one of their Japanese sites. But a brand new 3D Kirby game was announced, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, coming out spring 22. And it looks like a full-ish 3D game. I mean, it's 3D character models and 3D environment. I don't know if they are linear levels or if it is open exploration within the space. We'll find out later, but there's a new Kirby game. What were your thoughts on that?
I think when you were seeing different people speculate on what Nintendo could announce, and they're saying, oh, a Kirby game, maybe a 3D Kirby game. And it's like, oh yeah, it has been a while since Star Allies. You know, a 3D Kirby game, that would be interesting. It puts it more in your head, and then yeah, the leak happened, and I don't think I can say I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for it, I'm going to play it. It does look a lot like Mario Odyssey in a way, with like how the levels are kind of set up. That's kind of the impression it gives me just watching the footage here. But you know, it's good to have this kind of game for Kirby, and just kind of, I feel like Kirby's a franchise that they have generally been able to experiment with what kind of game Kirby does, and whether it's with like Mass Attack on DS or like the Triple Deluxe on 3DS. So they've just really been able to try different types of games with Kirby, and for him to have this kind of 3D adventure, it looks neat. I think at least I'd like to give it a rental shot for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see what Abby thinks about it and like wants to play. I sent her the trailer earlier, but I haven't been able to talk to her about it yet. It's interesting. I want to see more. I want to see kind of how they're exploring Kirby in a fully 3D space, because as far as I recall, that hasn't truly happened. I think Crystal Shards on the 64 was sort of close, but again, that was linear and just 3D character models and stuff. So
yeah.
I do find this. So I wrote about this. Who is this Twitter user back in June or July? I wrote about it in July, but I remember it was weeks before. So let's say early July. Marco Maro on Twitter, and I'll link to the story in the show notes, but he kind of just did a whole Twitter thread back then of different leaks and Nintendo stuff that he said was coming. And I commented about it. It was fun and stuff. But one of them was about Kirby's next game, and they simply tweeted, Kirby's next big adventure is something to be expected in 22. Surprise. Game was designed as a 3D adventure with RPG elements. And so, I mean, it's not hard to predict or guess or quote, leak that part. Like, new Kirby game is coming to Switch. That's pretty safe bet. But the RPG elements kind of, I mean, if that comes to pass, we don't get any indication really of that from this trailer. It's mostly environments and Kirby sucking people up or characters up for powers. So it's typical Kirby fare. But the idea of RPG elements could be kind of interesting in this open-ish level structure. So I'm curious to see more. And again, this is another 22 game. So we kind of we had our packed October from a Smash Direct all the way through Mario Party Superstars, and now we're back to 22 again. So it's just, they kind of kept bouncing back and forth between the end of this year and who knows when next year. It was just interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think it was a good part in the show for it, just, to get it out there, have it be another future game. Interesting to note about a leak to say RPG elements. I'm definitely curious to see more from this game, but at the same time, RPG elements is such a big catch-all phrase that it could be anything.
Oh, yeah, it's super safe. Could be anything. It could be combining powers to level up. There could be levels for who knows. It's more needs to be seen. I'm glad that this is out there. It gives that Switch some of this near-term future kind of games to look at, as well as the rest of the holidays. So it kind of keeps the Switch library looking pretty full or packed going forward, which is good, I think. Especially with the Switch OLED coming out also in October. It just kind of gives you more and more reasons to keep investing in the Switch now as it goes into its, it's going into its 5th year. Holy smokes.
Oh, wow.
It would be a really good time for a Super Switch, Nintendo. Just throwing that out there. Maybe before Breath of the Wild 2. Maybe. Who knows?
Interesting to note, though, that last thing about this Kirby game. When it got leaked, the Japanese title was Kirby Discovery, which I think is a much better title than Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
I saw people saying it looked like Kirby was stuck in Horizon Forbidden. Well, I guess, gosh darn it, the game has now escaped me. What's the new one called where it's out west?
Oh, yeah, Forbidden West.
Oh, it's Forbidden West. What was the
Zero Dawn.
Zero Dawn, thank you. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I've totally blanked on this.
I was getting big Near Automata vibes with like the buildings covered in moss and all that. Yeah.
Who knew Kirby would be in a post-apocalyptic game?
So someone, I think it was Liam Robertson on Twitter, who made the joke of it's a post-apocalyptic.
Oh my god!
It's like that's a stretch.
Okay, all right. The next announcement did get my wife Abby super duper excited because Nintendo acknowledged that Animal Crossing needs new content, and so another direct within a direct announcement. A Animal Crossing Direct is coming in October with new game content launching as soon as November, and they've clearly teased and confirmed that the so famous Animal Crossing coffee house, The Roost, is coming to New Horizons. Yes, give me the coffee house. Not that I've played the game really since like 2 months after launch, but yes, bring The Roost into Animal Crossing.
I'm the same way with New Horizons. I really enjoyed it, especially during the pandemic. But I think it's also telling that everyone was saying that if there was an update for Animal Crossing New Horizons, give us Brewster, give us The Roost. And, they listened, they delivered.
They knew deep down. I'm kind of, hopefully the Direct sheds some more light on future plans for this. But they've, that first year was pretty consistent. Typical Animal Crossing fare of like, holidays/events and keeping things updated. And I think a lot of the way Abby put it was a lot of people she interprets as have never played Animal Crossing before because New Horizons just reached a level at Animal Crossing had never been at before. I think due in part to the pandemic and everyone staying home. And she would notice in these communities that she's a part of, people complaining about where's new content. Like, this is the same stuff we were doing. And it was like, that's Animal Crossing, guys. Holidays don't change. So I'm wondering if they're going to do more free updates like this, but maybe more substantial kind of going into 22, or even if they could do a paid expansion, sort of like they did with New Leaf plus, I think the game was officially New Leaf plus Amiibo or Welcome Amiibo.
Oh, yeah.
But they added like the campground stuff, and they beefed that game up with kind of a substantial-ish expansion. So I'm very curious about the future of New Horizons and how they plan to like feed into this community and keep it active.
Yeah, once it rolled over into the new year, it felt like it was, not getting many substantial updates. So for this to drop was a real nice surprise.
Yeah, they didn't give a date for the Direct, I should say. So Clearly not going to be Smash. I assume the back half of October, third or fourth week, just because they've got the front end is so packed between Smash, a new console, and Metroid.
I agree. That's a good sweet spot, kind of that time in mid to late October.
Yeah. Well, Abby's very excited, and so I'm excited for her. So we'll see how that goes. The next kind of stretch here, some Mario Golf new content dropped today. Honestly, I didn't even remember what it was. I think it was Koopa Troopa or something was a playable character or something. Who knows?
Who is Ninji?
Ninji is aren't they in Super Mario World and the new Super Mario Brothers games? They're like the little ninja people. I think they're even
According
in Paper
to Super
Mario.
Mario Wiki, ninjas are black and star-shaped devil-like creatures that first appeared as enemies in Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, whose manual states that they are said to haunt the dreams of NES players. Their appearance in the international release Super Mario Bros. 2 marked their main series debut.
Yeah, they're also, I remember when I played Paper Mario for the first time earlier this year, they are in the Snow Village. And I had thought, this is the first time ninjas appear? But no, it's Super Mario Super Mario Brothers 2. And then Super Mario World.
They sure are in a whole bunch of spin-offs like Paper Mario. That's interesting. I had never... I guess it's funny, Super Mario Brothers 2, technically the Game Boy Advance version, was like the first Mario game I ever played. Mm-hmm. So you'd think I'd remember that, but much less what their names are. Ninjas. Yeah. So yeah, they're a playable character. There are a couple new courses. Nice that it's a free update.
Yeah, they've seemed to be really good about that, especially with their sports games. I think they did that for Mario Tennis for a while, and just here's a free update. Enjoy this new person. There was a Disney game. I mean, my friends joked that my boss was on the direct. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It looked like a typical holiday, just kids fair. Didn't seem anything special. I don't know if I can say that.
I don't know. Yeah, are you allowed to? No, I mean, they had that 3DS game, and so it's bringing it to Switch, bringing some of that content from the 3DS game. I'm sure it had an audience, albeit a younger one. So there's something to warrant another game like that being made.
Yeah. Then I want to say this was previously announced, but maybe I'm totally wrong. But Knights of the Old Republic KOTOR coming to Switch, not the remake that PlayStation has secured some exclusivity to that they announced a couple weeks ago, but just a port of the original KOTOR coming to Switch in November. I've never played KOTOR. Everyone that I know has played it is very, very excited about this on top of the remake. Do you have any experience with Knights of the Old Republic?
I personally don't. My brother, who got big into Mass Effect, wanted to check it out because it was a previous BioWare game, and he noted how it was tough to go back to. So yeah. I'm sure there are those who may have a great affinity for playing it when they grew up, but it seems like, from what I've gathered, not with firsthand experience, that it may be a tough game to go back to if you have not played it before. So I think it's there for those that have the nostalgia. Mm-hmm. You have the remake eventually coming for those that'll have more, I guess, modern day game sensibilities to it. But no, it's good and it's smart because that seems to be where Switch is at least the test bed, or at least a place where a lot of these Star Wars game remasters, generally by Aspire, but they're going to be tied up in the remake. But yeah, it seems to be where they go on Switch. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see this coming to the other consoles as well.
Yeah, I think this will be available pretty much anywhere that you'd want to buy and play it. It's clearly fueled by nostalgia, which is a very powerful thing. And my friend Logan, who's been on, him, and he's been on the show before. Mm-hmm. He was so excited. He's just like, yes, KOTOR's back. I love it, and I think Disney is really, again, I work for them, but not anywhere near any of this stuff. I write technical manuals, but the getting Star Wars exclusivity out of EA per se and starting to bring it out and kind of flesh some things out. I think they're having a good time sprinkling it around and bringing some old stuff back while they get ready to build out to new things. Because you've got to imagine there's a Fallen Order 2 in production. I mean, there has to be.
Sure.
There's the VR games that they've been doing.
Ubisoft has an open world game.
Yep.
There's a rumored Quantic Dream Star Wars game.
I saw that. That sounds weird. Like, I'm just picturing Detroit become human with lightsabers, and it's like, R2-D2, I have feelings, please. So, I mean, that would be really cool to see, and I'm curious if Sony could again nab some exclusivity there. But I digress. This is not that has nothing to do with the Direct. It's cool to see it come back, and I'm happy for those folks. I'm sure Limited Run will get some sort of physical edition because they've been doing that for these re-releases of these older games. So, good, I'm very happy for the KOTOR fans out there. Good for you.
A great month for news for them.
Yes. Then another cloud-based game in the vein of Hitman 3 or Control. Now the Switch is getting Dying Light 2, cloud-based. I mean, it's cool to see developers so willing to make their games work on Switch, even if it's through the cloud. I think that speaks to the demand for games on Switch, which is good for Nintendo and good for consumers because it gives them more options to play these bigger title games. But this is not where I want to play Dying Light 2. So
Absolutely not. I think it also speaks to the need for a more powerful Nintendo Switch.
Yes, a Super Switch, please.
But, we'll see if that ever comes. I wish I had, numerical figures or like some evidence to back up, like, are these cloud versions really worth the effort that goes into them? Because we'll see another one with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I forgot about that, yeah. It's fascinating just to see big games at launch or near launch come. And then other games too have been ported, like Doom and Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein, what was it, New Order and stuff. Like, people make the effort to put their games on Switch, and this also ties back to Dying Light, because Dying Light 1 Platinum Edition is coming to Switch as well. And as far as I could tell, this was not the cloud version. This was a native version of the game.
Yeah, you see the marked downgrade in the resolution there, and the texture quality, and it's like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's going to run on Switch properly, but oh yeah, that's why.
Yeah, so I actually, Dying Light was the first paid wiki I ever did for IGN, or I'm sorry, the second. It was the first. The first one was Tales of Borderlands from Telltale.
Nice.
The second one was Dying Light, and I was by myself doing this big open world game, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it was, so I like to sound, I suppose, like a hipster or something. Like, I was playing Dying Light before Dying Light was cool. And it's so fascinating to see the community surrounding Dying Light and the excitement for Dying Light 2. I mean, congratulations to the team and everything that just seemed, but I don't want to play Dying Light on the Switch at all. But good for those that do want to play. And it's cool that they can get it running on there, just like The Witcher 3 runs natively on. It's crazy what people can do, but
the sacrifices that can be made. No, I agree. And that's neat that it has, that kind of connection too, for sure. But I think it's, presenting options to an audience and seeing, where you get your bites.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Speaking of options for the audience, I'm trying here. I'm really trying here. Square Enix, again, coming in, just like Octopath Traveler, they're just dropping the word project, and the game is called Triangle Strategy.
We should have known.
Absolutely. I love it. That's incredible. They've talked about the feedback received from the demo that they launched 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh. What was it?
It wasn't
maybe
last
a year. I don't know.
To the internet. But they've announced a date. It is March 4th. I'm sorry. March 4th of 22. So actually just 6-7 months away. which is really cool. I thought that game was going to be cooking a little longer, so it's really nice to see it coming out so soon. Did you play the demo at all, or did you play Octopath Traveler?
I played a little bit of Octopath Traveler, didn't really grab me, so I wasn't too keen on trying the debut demo of Project Triangle Strategy, which, Max, it came out on February 17th, 2021.
No, it did not. No, it didn't. I don't believe this.
7 months ago.
No, it didn't.
That's what it says.
What? Oh my God.
Time is just a flat circle, a loop. Time has lost all meaning.
No. Peter, I'm having a moment.
Uh-huh. I wish I were kidding.
Oh my gosh. Where has the year gone? Wow, that actually makes the release kind of even more impressive to me, because I really thought this was going to take a while to come out. A 1 year turnaround from announcement. Really cool, but also horrifying that I have lost all grasp of time.
Speaking of horrifying.
Yes. This is the one part of the Direct I did not watch.
Oh, okay. I figured you were going a little dark on it, yeah.
So Metroid Dread was up next. This was another thing I thought was an absolute lock. The game's out in 2 weeks from tomorrow. Metroid Dread, they showed another trailer. They probably spoiled a lot of cool stuff. Cool that the game's coming out. I'm very, very, very excited for it. Launching on October 8th. Are you picking this up?
I want to. Let's put it that way. I want to, but currently saving for a house build.
Yes.
So there are some priorities that have to be put on the back burner a little bit. But I'm super excited for this one. I know I should buy it because, it puts faith in the Metroid franchise, sales numbers talk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It looks sick. It looks really cool. I'm definitely excited for it. And I am really hopeful that it can be a Game of the Year contender. I think
I'm hopeful too.
There's some potential there. I think, really excited for this one.
Yeah, I can't wait. I was trying to get the collector's edition and the amiibo, and like an amateur, I had the amiibo in the cart, but Best Buy didn't have the collector's edition up, and so I didn't order the amiibo when I should have. Long story short, I now have a copy from Amazon Japan that is shipping here, and so hopefully that pans out where it's a bundle with the amiibo and stuff. But I do have a backup at a Target just in case, but no amiibo. So we'll see. But I'm stoked. It feels strange to me. I guess again, time is a flat circle. It just feels really weird that there's a new Metroid game out in a couple of weeks. And I've intentionally seen very little of it. Nintendo has been tweeting about it quite regularly, so much that I've had to mute the word Metroid and Dread and just stuff like that. It's weird to see Nintendo really promoting Metroid after years of nothing.
Yeah, they even promoted their online sort of reports or whatever. There's like, go check out the report number 8 on the website because you'll need all the info you can. Okay, it's like, all right, interesting. No, you're right. I mean, it's been almost 20 years since we've had what was Metroid 4 with Fusion, and especially for it to be considered a numbered part of the series. Also interesting to see people talk about, thinking like, oh, maybe the Metroid Prime trilogy, that's, one of those things where it's like, it should be a thing, right? It's gotta be, right?
Yeah.
People thinking that maybe for Metroid Prime's 20th anniversary next year, perhaps that just a remake / remaster, whatever it is, of the original Prime on its own could be in the works. So
I hope
we'll
so.
see what happens after Metroid once all of the Dread promotion is out there. But very excited for this one. Should be, I think, one of Nintendo's standouts for the year.
Yeah, I'm very, very hopeful. And, Fusion sort of ties. There's a leap in logic here, but it ties into the next thing because the rumors surrounding Nintendo Switch Online coming into this Direct, especially from a few weeks ago where some reports were corroborated from places like Eurogamer and I want to say VGC that Game Boy games were coming to Nintendo Switch Online, were all these reports. And so I had actually, between the corroboration and Metroid coming out, I was kind of like, maybe they will put out Metroid 2 on the Game Boy and then Zero Mission Infusion and be like, and here are Metroid games that you can play now with Switch Online. And before, granted, it would have made more sense to do this sooner instead of a few weeks before Dread. But guess what? None of that comes to pass. There's no Game Boy games on Nintendo Switch Online. Instead, we get N64 games and Sega Genesis. What? What?
Yeah, see, the more that things were kind of coming up, especially with the controllers and all that, I feel like Nintendo 64 made sense.
The 64 made sense with the controller. Absolutely.
Right.
It's the next home console for them to do. Rest in peace, Virtual Boy. But the next thing was the N64. The real question was, would Nintendo reproduce and sell Nintendo 64 controllers in the year 2021? And the answer is yes. Of course they will.
For $50 a pop to be wireless, I mean, that's robbery, but
oh yeah,
there's going to be a market for that for sure. I think the other part of it though is, you saw all those Game Boy and Game Boy Color things. I think people got hopes up and thought Game Boy Advance would be part of that, and I did not see anything to suggest that.
No, absolutely not. It was all a pipe dream, and clearly still is a dream. I would love, maybe they do announce this Game Boy stuff later. So, because they basically announced that N64 and Genesis were coming in October, but that they would announce a win later and the pricing, because it's joining it. Those games will only be included in a new, more expensive tier of Nintendo Switch Online called the Expansion Pack, I believe, which is, I like that name a lot for the N64 and Genesis, because N64's Expansion Pack, and then the Genesis was also infamous for modular expansion. So I actually think that's kind of a cute name for it. But when
I was very surprised to see Genesis be a part of that, though. I think when they were saying that, and there's also, I was totally expecting Game Boy, but just wow, blindsided.
It really was a callback to the Virtual Console, where they're like, not only do we have Nintendo's back catalog, but now we have the Genesis and the Master System and TurboGrafx and stuff. Now, granted, those things aren't on Switch Online yet, but they could come in the future. I think the crazier thing is Nintendo is also producing and selling a Sega Genesis gamepad.
Yeah. What's with that? You show that to someone from the 90s and their minds are blown.
And it's a 3-button pad. It's not the 6-button, which is interesting because that technically could limit 6-button game. I mean, I guess they could sell the 6-button controller later and make even more money. Or folks could just, buy the 8-bit DOE controllers, or I forget the name of the company. I think it's Retro 6 or something, but they have their own line, which they actually have recently launched wireless N64 controllers. So I'm sure that those sales are now going to also uptick as well for that sort of stuff. And they're designed to be more, ergonomic than the iconic 3-prong controller. So sometime in October, more expensive tier. What could that even be? I mean, right now, I should just look it up, but I recall like 1 year of Nintendo Switch Online for a individual is $20.
Yep, 20, and it's 35 for a family.
So maybe another 10. I don't know. We'll see. I'm fine with it. How do you feel about paying more to get N64 and Genesis games, just in general?
I think I'd be fine with it if it were the 30 individual. I think that'd be okay. I think, there has to be, some higher cost to it get those games involved. And when they're talking about bringing in some of the heavy hitters like they plan to, especially when you're talking to other companies to get licensing rights and things like that, you're going to have to charge a bit more of a premium for it. The unfortunate thing is that I think it's going to be a bad news hit, because why do you not mention it here? The fact that you're still testing the waters for
Yeah.
you don't want to share it even in like a press release. You don't want to hide it there. No, we're going to save it and maybe bury it like on a Friday and just hope that no one's going to notice. That does not bode well.
Yeah.
Would I be shocked to see an individual user say $50 a year?
Ooh.
No.
It would not
That
be
would
surprising.
right? I mean, that would be a lot, but it would not be surprising. They could say, well, our competitors, for PlayStation Plus, it's 60. For what Xbox is doing with Game Pass, it's a lot more. So, so it's actually a really good deal. And then you got to talk about how Nintendo's got to start having better online servers for multiplayer games and things like that. It's a whole conversation. So I'd be comfortable with 30 for an individual a year. Would kind of grip it and say, okay, for 40, but I could easily see it being at least 50.
Yeah. But the games, which are very, very important, pretty strong, albeit small, launch lineup. Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Win Back. I'm not familiar with Win Back.
No.
Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Mario Tennis, Dr. Mario 64, Yoshi's Story, Sin and Punishment. And then they said that more games were coming in the future at some point, including Majora's Mask, Mario Golf, Pokemon Snap, F-Zero X, Kirby 64, Paper Mario, and Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it?
Oh my goodness gracious. Definitely. So Microsoft's cool playing ball here, and that opens the door for rare possibilities. But let's start with that initial launch wave of games there. What do you think of them?
I think you got the big ones, right? You got Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart, Star Fox. Those are the ones you needed to have.
Yeah.
I feel like everything else is icing on the cake. It's weird to see Dr. Mario 64 on there. I want to give a shout out to the podcast Masterpieces, where when they went and played that game to represent Dr. Mario in their chronology of Super Smash Brothers characters, like just realizing how like that game doesn't really have like a logo publicly out there. People like forget that game exists. So that's kind of weird to see that there, though I guess with the Dr. Mario mobile game, it's kind of more in the mind of Nintendo, I suppose. Sin and Punishment is a great pull. That's a nice deep cut from Treasure, as we'd later see with Star's successor on the Wii is kind of the spiritual successor, but to get the original there, that's really neat. Yoshi's Story is a classic, right?
Yeah.
Mario Tennis, I'm excited to see. Like you, I don't know what Win Back is. It sounds like a weird thing for Windows or something. I don't know. But I'm sure there are people out there who are like, I remember playing Win Back or collecting it. I think, yeah, you're right. It seems a little small initially, but then all of those future games, they're bangers.
Oh, yeah.
That's knock after knock after, hit it out of the park. The question is, how often do they roll it out? And what else do they have planned beyond that?
Mm-hmm. I was reminded during this presentation that part of Nintendo Switch Online, like its game capabilities, is online multiplayer. And
yes, and so this will have that as they say select titles, but
I mean, you've got
Star
Fox 64, Mario Kart 64 is going to have like the Mario Tennis, there is on the NES and SNES, like the multiplayer kind of was like, all right, yeah, sure. Well, what games am I going to play with two people? I really think this is going to hit a stride and definitely draw people into the subscription, and especially now, the higher subscription tier. I would love to play Mario Kart 64 online, Star Fox 64 with, my friend Michael Ruiz. Like, just, this is going to be cool, I think. I think a lot of people are going to want to buy it and try it. Now, will it run well? Hopefully. It seems to run fine for the NES and Super NES, so I'm hopeful, but there's always the chance that it's not going to be super great. Hopefully. We'll see.
Speaking of Super, let's get Super Smash Brothers in there if you want an online game in the future.
Please bring it in. Oh my gosh. There's so much. There really is a lot of potential. And speaking of potential, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the more interesting games on this list, especially the ones coming out in the future. Pokemon Snap. Never would I have thought before new Pokemon Snap like that they would acknowledge this game's existence. But I think now with new Pokemon Snap, giving people access who have subscribed to the original is like a total just sweet. And people will be taking the screenshots on the Switch and sharing those. So
yes,
absolutely. I'm really stoked to see that be included here. I wanted to say Emily Rogers on Twitter, she I'm pretty sure her account is like restricted or blocked, or she limits who can follow her, and I've been a part of that for a while. But she talked about she's heard, quote, tiny whispers about Pokemon Stadium, a game that was never released on Virtual Console, but she's not sure if that's still in the cards or not. So Pokemon Stadium, there's Pokemon Stadium 2 potential, online multiplayer with those games.
Oh my gosh, wow, yeah.
Right? It just, there's a lot of cool potential there. And kind of really quick to tie back to Dr. Mario, as far as she remembers, Dr. Mario 64 was never released for Virtual Console. So it seems that Nintendo may be tapping into games that have never been re-released beyond original hardware, which is kind of cool to see them tapping into that legacy in a rich, kind of accessible way, hopefully.
Also exciting to see them tapping into franchises that they've ignored for years, like F-Zero X
and Star Fox. Zero, but whatever. So F-Zero is available on the Super Nintendo part of the Switch Online service. So F-Zero is kind of like at least being talked about or mentioned. So that's really exciting to see. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll get GameCube and Game Boy Advance and all of F-Zero will be playable on Switch.
We can dream.
Yes. Paper Mario, I find awesome, just first of all, because it's a fun game, and the emulation hopefully on Switch is better than it was on Wii U as far as colors and brightness and stuff. But also, there have been some rumors about a Paper Mario remake, which again would be kind of giving players access to a game and then having a sequel or a remake or something come out later on Switch. So keeping people aware of series and franchises and letting them play. But the big one, Banjo-Kazooie. Microsoft clearly is playing ball. They want people to... They clearly are willing to make deals with Nintendo because of Smash and Minecraft and who knows. But this opens such... Like, there's so much potential behind this Banjo-Kazooie door. I'm kind of waking out.
It is promising for that. At the same time, though, Microsoft does get to say that, well, we have the superior version of the game on our system, on our platform, from our eyes. You can get it through Xbox Game Pass, and you can play it at 4K resolution at a better overall look and feel for the game. So
absolutely,
we are opening the door to Nintendo to give them this version as you remember it as the classic. So I think they get to have it both ways for themselves.
Yeah. So, that opens Banjo-Tooie. We could see Donkey Kong 64 come in here, which was released on the Wii U Virtual Console. So I would love it if Donkey Kong 64 came. That would be great. Perfect Dark. If they could figure it out, if somehow mega corporations could all align between MGM, Amazon now technically,
yep,
Microsoft, Nintendo, if they could all come together and go give the people what they want and put GoldenEye on here with online multiplayer,
it's game over.
It is, in the best way. Man, if I could get Banjo-Tooie, I'll be set. But man, there's some real solid potential for N64 here on Switch Online.
There's a lot of good games on that platform, so I think we'll definitely be excited to see what happens in the future. Although I hope it's not like what has been happening lately with NES and Super Nintendo, where a lot of the releases are people just like, why do you even bother? Okay, so we'll see.
Well, yeah, we will see. The other game system they announced, the Genesis, which was, of course, when you think Nintendo's going to zig, they zag, and they zagged harder and brought in former competitor, now partner and publisher, Sega, in the Genesis. They've got a list of games coming out, some of which I find quite interesting. You know, the Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but no Sonic 1 or 3 and Knuckles. Streets of Rage 2, Echo the Dolphin, of course. Castlevania Bloodlines, which...
That's sick.
Yeah, that is really good. Which is actually available in the Castlevania collection that you can buy on Switch right now. And so that game just being accessible is sweet. Contra Hardcore, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Golden Axe, Gunstar Heroes.
Gunstar Heroes, yes.
Musha, Phantasy Star 4, what is that? Restar, Shining Force, Shinobi 3, Return of Ninja Master, and Strider. Really strong Genesis titles here, at least for the start here.
Yeah, that's some good titles for sure.
I'm curious what the support for Genesis is going to look like.
Yeah. Do they keep it at the same kind of pace as Nintendo does? Yeah, we'll see.
It is.
And I think if you include any Sonic game, it's Sonic 2. That's a good call.
Oh yeah, I mean it is the one to have out of that lineup. But man, there's a lot.
I like Sonic 3 and Knuckles the most? Yes, but you got a whole bunch of licensing rights tied up in that, especially with the music. So
yes, Sonic 3 is fascinating, but this is a really diverse and strong Genesis lineup. I'm actually quite excited about it to have these games accessible. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, come on. Let's go.
I think any games that you add to this kind of platform, it's going to be exciting, right?
Yeah.
I just did not expect this platform choice compared to when you've got a handheld and a bunch of handheld games.
Yeah, and this also, I mean, back to the door analogy, this opens the door for other consoles, technically. You know, just like the Virtual Console did on the Wii. I mean, this really kind of captured that spirit. I mean, could we see TurboGrafx come? Could the Virtual Console be reborn as a subscription service? And if they could get that kind of library and breadth that they had, that would be incredible. I mean, that's the dream, right? Just the whole Virtual Console, essentially, but in, not the palm of your hand, but in, on your Switch. That would be very enticing. I guess it just really depends on these companies and the kind of money that Nintendo is going to pay them to have their games on the subscription service. So,
yeah, and I think it's the dream that we kind of see it laid out with Xbox Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And is Nintendo paying attention to that?
I think maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to tell with them, obviously, because they make some really wacky decisions that don't make sense. But like I said, when you think they zig, they zag. And when you think they're going to zag, they don't zig. They go a completely different way. But it's very exciting. I'm curious to learn more. I guess they didn't say that it was going to be a direct in October, but more announcements in October. They really...
Yeah.
It's going to be...
They'll probably do some social media posts, I bet, and hope that you miss the one where they talk about the price.
Yeah. Don't pay attention to the price. Very cool. It was arguably one of the biggest things. But to move it along, Shadowrun Trilogy, I've never heard of this in my life. I don't know what this is, but it's coming out in 2022. I don't know.
That's classic cyberpunk adventure game.
Cool. Shadowrun. Happy for those folks. The long, not even rumored, just long rated by different ESRB boards, Castlevania Advance Collection came out today. Very cool. I already picked that up. It's got 4 games in it, the 3 on Game Boy Advance, and then Dracula X, which was the Super Nintendo game, which was also available in the Castlevania collection normally, I think. I have to go back and double check. Anyway, 4 Castlevania games. Also, ActRaiser Renaissance. They've remade ActRaiser. What?
This had me like cackling on the floor. Like, of all the games to remaster, we're gonna pick ActRaiser.
People love it.
They do, and I'm super excited. Honestly, got hyped to hear that Fillmore track. It's one of the greatest opening level tracks ever made. Yuzo Koshiro classic. But yeah, wow, it's a game that on my podcast Original Sound Chat, my co-host brought it to the show one time, and it's like, yeah, I know there are a couple of great songs from ActRaiser, but we're really talking about ActRaiser. Sure enough, for it to be a shadow drop today, he and I were just texting each other. It's like, ActRaiser.
ActRaiser.
Okay.
And those two games, Castlevania and ActRaiser, and the next game, which is Deltarune Chapter 2, also available on PlayStation today as well. Obviously not mentioned in the Direct, but these games are up on those platforms as well today. It's not one of these temporary console exclusives. They got announced in Nintendo Spotlight.
Well, and good that also for Deltarune Chapter 2, like it came to these other platforms so quickly. I mean, we're less than a week away from when it released on PC. So
yeah, I'm very excited to see
Toby
that.
Fox to turn those around.
And clearly shows that they had planned for that from the beginning. But I would assume based off some sort of contractual agreement with Nintendo to reveal it in the Direct. And Toby's like, well, I want to announce the game on, Undertale's anniversary. And so they clearly just were like, it'll come to Switch someday. And thankfully someday was like a week later, which is great.
Yeah.
I want to skip ahead really quick to the last two games that they talked about.
Let's keep talking about games before we get to a Miyamoto surprise.
Yes. Splatoon 3 was a game that I thought was most likely, like, it's time to show Splatoon 3 gameplay, and they did. Reiterated a 2022 date. Mammals are returning to the world of Splatoon. So you're a squid and a kid and a mammal now. So it looks like more Splatoon, which I love very, very much. Curious, the scope of the single player looks way more open from what I could gather. But the multiplayer just looks like wackier, wilder Splatoon. And I, for one, am stoked. I know you guys just talked about Splatoon over on Original Sound Chat a few weeks ago. And I remember you talking about your experience with it, but how are you feeling about Splatoon 3?
I bless Splatoon in general as a game that is unabashedly wacky about its lore and what it tries to build for itself. It's not one that I find myself drawn to or excited about. But when they drag out the whole idea of the Squid Research Lab, and the director producer for the game is all about that scientist get up and putting his body in shapes that look like numbers.
I love it.
God bless the energy on that team. That's great for them. But it's not a game I'm super excited about, but I admire the dedication. And then also the fans that are like, is that Callie in a dress? And I'm like, yeah, you go nuts about that. All right.
Yeah, I don't fall into that hardcore game, but I do still boot up Splatoon 2 every now and then and play a few matches. I find it's a very, it's an easy game to pick up. Yeah.
And it's great music too. Like, let's be honest. Like, there may have been some question about, when the trailer began, but once the music kicks in, it's like, oh, that's Splatoon music. Oh yeah, we do need to talk about Splatoon 3, I guess. So
yeah, Splatoon 2022, very stoked. And the last game closing the Direct out, Bayonetta 3 finally shows up in a Direct from its announcement in 2017, like 4.5 years ago, or
yeah, wow,
should have really seen this coming. Pretty much a lock when you think about it, especially when Platinum a few weeks ago was saying, but don't worry guys, like, we're still on track, it's really just up to Nintendo when to show it. And Nintendo decided to show it today. Showed off the gameplay looking like more Bayonetta. I personally have not played any of the Bayonetta games. It's definitely a blind spot in my kind of like gaming catalog or experience. I do want to say, though, that on the stream, watching it live, it looked, I thought, rough. I was like, oh, please, Super Switch, please. It needs help. This is clearly struggling. But I watched the direct video that Nintendo uploaded later before the show to kind of just, look it over one more time and get kind of a taste for it. And it looked way cleaner, crisper, clearer, running really well. The video itself was 1080-60. Will that be what it runs at on Switch? I don't know. But I will happily say that it looks way better in a native, like a direct video on YouTube. And you have to also think that there's still YouTube compression in there. So it probably looks even better running on real hardware in person. So I'm not actually very worried about this game's performance or running now after initial impressions. What do you think of Bayonetta 3?
Platinum knows what they're doing with Bayonetta. They're going to make that game look good. That trailer had all of what they needed to. The cheeky remarks. They've got the new hairstyle for Bayonetta. She's got braids. She looks great. And then the action looks fun as well. I have not played enough Bayonetta. I played, probably maybe half of the first one. Really need to get back to that one for sure. But haven't played enough to know like where they're necessarily going with the story. Why are these monsters in Shibuya? Like, what is there anything happening with like the angel witch confrontation? Or is that just thing of the past? I'm just speaking from ignorance there, but yeah, it looks great. And I was almost wondering at first when like you see the 101 kind of in that recreation of Shibuya and you see Platinum, I'm like, are we getting Wonderful 102? Like you'd hope that it's Bayonetta 3 because yes, all the statements that Platinum has made, and it is long overdue. But no, a fun trailer for sure.
There was even the Astral Chain reference there with the dog, and the guys in my call were like, "Is this Astral Chain 2?"
Yes,
like,
I was thinking that too. Yep.
So they were it really was kind of Kojima-esque in the beginning there, which is fun. It had that flavor, and then it kicked into full Bayonetta mode with everything. I mean, that game has style. Platinum knows what they're doing, like you said. It's great to see it. 2022. In the trailer, they flashed up like the year, and then they like slashed through it, and I went, "Oh my gosh, is this game like coming out this year? That would be awesome."
Yep, I thought the same thing.
And then nothing happened. I was like, "Oh, well, that was kind of."
They showed a silhouette of some character that people are wondering if is it a Devil May Cry thing or
it looked like Dante.
Going to be, it kind of did. It's probably going to be a new character for this game specifically, but I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, are they actually going to do it? Like, you thought we were going to do 2022, but here you go. So, yeah.
No, but I'm very happy that game is finally out in the light. Now that all that's left is Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
That's it. Please. I still have quick tangent. Metroid Prime 4 is the last game I pre-ordered on Amazon back when they did like pre-order game and get, was it 10 or 20?
Oh,
like 10%. It's the last game I pre-ordered with that bonus of like, if you have Prime, you get a discount.
I thought you were almost going to say your Best Buy Gamers Club unlocked.
No, I'm not that cool. I do remember though that I needed to change the address on it, and it wouldn't let me change that. And when I messaged support, I told them that it was a pre-order I made back in 2017. And they were like, "I'm sorry, you win? What?" I was like, "Yes, please just let me change this address." I'm looking up the order now just because I want to know when I did it. Order details. Or I'm sorry, it was 2018. August 26th, 2018.
Yeah, E3 2018 kind of sounds about right, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it currently says December 31st, 2022. Sadness.
I think this Direct overall, though, as far as the games front, checked all the boxes, though. I think one thing that a lot of people were still, like, it's been rumored for a little while that, Monolith's working on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And so I wouldn't have been surprised if that ended the show. But, Bayonetta 3, we'll take that for sure. But overall, I think it was a really good Direct, just kind of checking off what a lot of people thought was going to be covered here.
And really shows kind of how stacked 22 is for the Switch. I mean, Bayonetta, Splatoon, you've got the sequel to Breath of the Wild in there, Kirby, who knows what's Animal Crossing. Like, Switch has got a big year ahead of it next year, and so it's a good time to be playing on the Switch. Very exciting stuff.
But it'll also be a big year in Hollywood theaters.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Peter. Miyamoto shows up. He pops out of the side. It's like, well, what is this man going to reveal? What is he going to do? He goes, I'm here to talk about the Mario movie. And I'm like, all right, maybe we see a trailer. No, we don't see a trailer. We get something better than a trailer. We get the cast. The cast of this movie is incredible. But the apparently reported to just be called Mario. So Mario is coming to theaters in the United States December 21st, 2022. So it's hitting that Christmas movie time, which I think is perfect for, that kind of movie, an animated children's film, video game style. And definitely after Sonic the Hedgehog, I could see this movie totally knocking it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
And then Miyamoto goes, here's the cast. And I'm now realizing I have a typo in his name. But this just kept getting better and better as it went on. And so...
Better? Or worse?
Funnier.
Because when he starts saying the cast...
It's
I'm
funny.
like, Charles Martinet as Mario, right?
Nope.
Charles Martinet as Luigi, right? Charles Martinet as Wario, right? No.
Instead, he's just going to make some cameos in the film. I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably already know it. But if not, Mario is going to be voiced by Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt, Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic World. The
Lego movie.
Lego movie. Good callback. He's got animated film experience, but Chris Pratt as Mario. I think Logan said it best. Chris Pratt, my favorite Italian.
Yes, right? Oh my gosh. Did you see the tweet where it was like they tried to warn us, and it was the key art for Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope? Mm-hmm. And Mario is holding this gun that he has. A similar gun in a similar pose to the movie poster for Guardians of the Galaxy.
I did not.
Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. It was just like a side-by-side image. It's like, oh, wow, okay.
This is incredible. The memes that are coming out of this, the references, the callbacks, is just the gift that keeps on giving. Anya Taylor-Joy is Princess Peach. I mean, not that this is live action or anything, but I definitely can see that. She's a wonderful actress, really knows how to crush it. She's going to bring a lot of awesomeness to Princess Peach, I'm sure.
I'm fine with it. That's a good one.
Yes. Luigi is none other than Charlie Day.
Another bless the memes with Pepe Sylvia and big L hat on. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Charlie Day. Oh, so good. Bowser. Jack Black. Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
It's perfect, but at the same time, like, he's had his video game roles, like in Psychonauts 2. He's gonna be Claptrap already in Borderlands.
That's right.
And I don't know if he's just gonna be stretching himself too far, or like we're gonna hear enough, unless he's like gonna put on a Bowser like voice, which okay, I'm here for. Yeah, like channeling like that deep register, but okay, I see it.
Yeah.
Like, what did you just send me? Oh no.
I'll put it in the show notes, but it is this tweet that I saw earlier. It says Mario approaches Bowser's castle, and it's a clip of Jack Black on Jimmy Fallon's show playing this toy saxophone, and it is just good.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes, it is. Just the gift that keeps on giving. So Jack Black is Bowser. Then I can't picture more perfect casting. Donkey Kong is Seth Rogen. Yes. The Seth Rogen laugh is going to be Donkey Kong's laugh. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so good.
I just need a joke in there equating bananas to weed.
Oh yeah.
I just need that. Have it kind of slide by all the kids, but
please, Miyamoto,
pick up on it.
Please, Miyamoto. Toad is being voiced by Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay.
There's a clip going around of the where he's a substitute teacher to the Aaron,
Yes.
but
Yes,
with
yes,
a Toad
yes.
register in his voice. Oh my gosh. I really think there will be a joke about the hat or head thing, especially since
Sure.
Keegan is bald. Like, it's just too perfect. Knowing that Kamek is Kevin Michael Richardson.
Would never have guessed
I mean,
his deep register for Kamek, but okay.
Sure, I would have never guessed any of these people.
I could see Fred Armisen as Cranky, but
which
I
is
do
next.
not know Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yes, neither do I. He is Spike, and then Cranky Khan, like you said, Fred Armisen. It kept getting funnier and funnier and funnier, and it's just so. I mean, it's kind of like. Sort of like Idris Elba is Knuckles in the second Sonic movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just like these are super famous people, especially when you get to Jack Black, Seth Rogen, Chris Pratt, and Charlie Day. I mean, he is. Everyone knows him from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a wonderful show. But I mean, they are stars. Like Universal's is getting the people in. I am very excited to see the first trailer. Just the curiosity I have.
I feel like it's going to be a similar internet moment to the first Sonic the Hedgehog trailer. And
hopefully not as horrifying.
Well, yeah, hopefully, because Illumination does have their animation style that they've kind of honed with Minions and Sing and all that they do. So like it'll look fine. It won't look like horrifying hedgehogs with teeth. But it'll be odd to hear speaking actors coming out of these characters' mouths. Yes. And I feel like that's going to take a lot of preparation and adjustment to get used to. I feel like we also have to note its place in the show. We kind of glossed over it and skipped over it, but we're coming off of Toby Fox's delightful Deltarune trailer, and then Miyamoto shows up and drops this bomb on us, and then we're like, all right, on to our next game, and it's Splatoon 3, and everyone's just like, no, we need more time to process this. Like,
it is definitely in the slot of the show where it was like kind of the last, like this in a traditional direct would have been where they do like the last big in-depth reveal of like, here is this game and let's go through it for a little bit. But instead, Miyamoto, which we haven't really seen a lot of lately in the directs. I think his last appearance was for Super Nintendo Land, the theme park, and giving that to him. Miyamoto is definitely, I mean, he is within the company. I mean, he is a top dog, and he is dealing with the future of Nintendo to a degree outside of video games. They are diversifying. They own some of the most iconic characters, in the world, in media and entertainment.
Yeah.
And to have a theme park, in Japan and here in the United States and Florida is great. And this movie, also with Universal, obviously the games, just switches on a high. I mean, this is kind of the time to strike this iron and branch out to do these things. But it was a very weird spot in the show, and it was very funny. Just kind of it just kept building and building, and we lost it when Seth Rogen was Donkey Kong. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm very much looking forward to the next year of the internet. I mean, the memes already have just been out of control.
For sure. I have more to catch up on, obviously, because this Jack Black at Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show is a classic clip on its own, but to throw in a Bowser mix in there, that's amazing. Wow.
It is, the internet has been very good to me. There's a scene in Always Sunny where, it's not Charlie, gosh darn it, who is it? But he dresses up as Luigi for Halloween. So they're pretty,
yeah.
They're it's just too perfect. It's gonna be great. But all in all, that was the direct. Slightly they're out of order for us with the movie stuff, but I mean, pound for pound, that was the direct. How did you feel about it? How would you, rate it? I suppose rank it. Like, how did you feel about the direct today?
I think it's a B plus direct. Honestly, I think like I said, they kind of hit all of the different notes that they needed to. They made announcements, which I think, set them up for potentially more exciting news later down the line. You have other announcements that could hurt some pocketbooks as far as plus expansion packs for just overall. It's exciting that they're bringing Nintendo 64 and Genesis to their Nintendo Switch Online offerings, but they kind of left out some key information there. But you're hitting, big updates or announcements with, Monster Hunter Rise, which a lot of people love to play. Here's some free Mario Golf content. Here's a 3D Kirby game. Animal Crossing. That's another big one. The movie Cast of Something, and I think that you end the long drought of the Bayonetta 3 News Twitter account of it's like 1,300 some days since they've had Bayonetta news, and Jubileus was good to them today. So I think it's a solid offering. I mean, granted, not all the games are going to be for everyone, but it's a wide range of products, and then you still have more things to come. Like on the indie front, I mean, there was rumors that maybe we'll get a Hollow Knight Silksong date today, and that didn't happen. But that's more news to come down the line.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was those rumors were coming in really hot right before the direct. So someday we'll get Silksong. I enjoyed it like a lot. It was definitely entertaining. Definitely an entertaining direct. As far as just personal taste in games, not necessarily a lot for me. It was more exciting to see like the Switch Online and the Castlevania stuff. So more toward the end of the direct, the front half was just like, cool, this stuff's coming to Switch, it's good. The Switch is definitely in its kind of midlife prime kind of peak point. And I'm really, really curious when that more powerful revision's coming down the line. That I have to assume that they're taking this strategy of the DS and the 3DS, where it was, DS, XL, 2DS, and then the new and more powerful, and just keep this console going for as long as they would like.
And you'll be able to play all Switch games on the next Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Switch has got a really powerful library, and it just seems to be like a really good, strong year, especially for its competitors with the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles kind of getting into their flow. Sony's got a pretty strong 22 if they can keep their dates lined up, but we don't really know a lot about their future. And the same thing with Xbox. Xbox is actually a bit more in focus. It's more, can they hit their dates? And because the Switch is going into year 5, it's just like it is firing on all cylinders. And that's really cool to see, especially after the Wii U generation last year. This is Nintendo Wii style energy here, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, the premise and the concept of the Switch is still so very strong, but you're right, as we get into these now current gen, but the next gen machines for Sony and Microsoft, the stark tech difference has never been more apparent. And we'll have to see if there's an incremental push from Nintendo to show why players should continue to come back and play some games on Switch as opposed to these newer machines from their competitors.
Yeah, I agree. It is it's good. It's a good time to be a gamer. Playing all these games. It's a very good time. Peter, thank you so much for joining me, especially so late. I really, really appreciate it. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you online and listen to your show?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at PeteSpeakEasy. That's probably the easiest way where you can find me online. I host a podcast called Original Sound Chat, as you've heard me mention a couple times through the show. That's on social media at SoundChatOST. My co-host Joe DeVader and we talk about video game soundtracks and generally bringing 2 to the show each week. Each and every Tuesday we release an episode. He brings a game, I bring a game, and we talk about kind of like the game itself, the history behind the development of the game, and then highlighting a composer or a musician from the soundtrack, and then highlight at least the top 5 critical tracks and then some other ones on the cutting room floor. So it's a neat discussion about game music and how it ties into the game as a whole, and it causes some fun conversations and some neat trivia to discover along the way. This upcoming week, as of time of recording, so I guess, hitting the end of September here, he will be bringing up, oh gosh, why am I blanking on the game that he's doing? He's talking about Finding Paradise, which is the game from Kan Gao, who is basically the second To the Moon game. That's, timing with the third To the Moon game, Imposter Factory, coming out at the end of this month. And then I will be talking about a game that actually has ties to you, Max, and your Naughty Dog research. I'll be talking about Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
Give me that Vuvuzela. That's going to be really good. So, listener, you've listened. Thank you for listening all the way to here, first of all. And now go listen to Original Sound Chat. I love the show so much. They just did one on Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors, which lined up with Sonic Colors Ultimate. That was really actually quite fascinating to listen to. I've got 2 more episodes queued up, your most recent 2. They're sitting there ready for me to listen. But I learned so much every time that I've just fun facts and trivia about the composers and musicians behind these soundtracks. And it's not just, the big names like Yoko Shimomura or Koji Kondo. Like, it's not the names you hear everywhere. It's the actual people, musicians behind it, creating this music. And then I learned stuff about the games and the development all the time. You guys did a Trauma Center game not too long ago. I forget the Wii one. And
the Trauma Team. Yep. Trauma Team.
And I have a buddy super into Atlas games and stuff. And I was like, here you go, Grant. You should listen to this one. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. So please go check it out.
I really appreciate that. We're on 140 episodes now, so there's been a lot of composers and musicians brought up over the almost 3 years we've done the show. Wow.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And odds are, if you've wanted them to talk about a soundtrack, they probably have already done it, and you can just search that feed and listen to it, which I've done. Like Wind Waker, I was like, yep, here we go. Bam.
Oh, yeah. That was way early on. Yep.
Oh, yeah, super early. But the show is super, super fun to listen to, so I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
As far as myself, you can find me over on Twitter at MaxRoberts143. You can find my writing over at maxfrequency.net. If you'd like to read about the history of Naughty Dog during the PS4 era, you can check out Chasing the Stick, chasingstick.com. Or you can check out my seasonal podcast, Chapter Select, where Logan, Moore, and myself, we pick a series of games and we bounce back and forth between its entries, exploring their evolution, design, and legacy. Season 1 was all about Paper Mario. We did like a Season 0 with The Last of Us, and Season 2 is in production right now should be coming out here in just a few weeks. Should start rolling those episodes out. So keep an eye out for that. But until next time, thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Adios. Oh my God, who's gonna be Mario?
First, of course, is Mario.
The Rock Johnson.
Who will be played
Chris Pratt! No!
A lot in the movie. Please look forward to
Wow, Chris Pratt, my favorite Italian.
Princess Peach will be played by Anya Taylor-Joy. I can't wait to see a very spirited Princess Peach.
Chris Pratt is Mario.
Mario's little brother, Luigi, will be played by Charlie Day.
Oh!
Yes!
Bowser will be played by the one and only Jack Black.
What the heck?
Even though
Yes! Get